Hi there, welcome back to Karen's Knit Picks. My name is Karen and today I'm going to be sharing my spring knitting plans. So if you're new here, my name is Karen. I started knitting a couple of months ago and I am just sharing my journey here on this podcast in this type of video format. I also have recently started sewing, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of that as well, and just kind of any other crafty things that I decide to get myself into. So that is pretty much it. So I figure I'll start with a couple of just updates, things that I have going on, and then we will dive into finished objects. I have one finished object, a couple of whips, and then nice big yarn haul, and that will work very nicely with my spring knitting plan. So we've got a lot to cover, so let's just get into it. So first up is just some updates. I put up a sewing vlog as my last video, and it didn't do very well. It seems like, I mean, obviously I've been consistently showing knitting content on this channel, but I would like to be able to share a little bit of everything that I'm doing. So if you have any feedback for me on my sewing vlog that I just shared, please let me know. I will make sure I add it in the cards. I think they're on this side. And I will be sure to take that into consideration for the next time I do them. I definitely want to continue doing a vlog style video, but I'm totally open to feedback. So that's the first thing. Second thing is on a more personal update. I got engaged over this past weekend, so very exciting. I have a nice new stunning ring on my finger, so it's very exciting. We are just thrilled. So yeah, lots of planning ahead of me, but right now we're just kind of chilling, relaxing, and yeah, not driving ourselves crazy just yet. I think that's it for life updates, so I guess we'll just keep going. It's been a while since I've done this podcast format, so I feel like I'm a little bit out of practice, but I'm gonna try and be concise because I feel like my podcasts have been really long lately and I don't always like to watch like an hour-long video, so I'm gonna try and keep things concise today. So first things first for finished objects is my sweater number 23. I finished it maybe like 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, something like that. I have been working on this one since like December. I think I cast it on just after Christmas and I finished it like April 1st. So this one took me a while, but I definitely ran into some complications with this one. I had to frog a section of it at the very beginning, and I also had my 5mm needle break while I was working on this, so we had a couple of obstacles on this one, but it was such a nice piece, and I have to say I'm very glad to have this finally finished, even though it's like 75 degrees today and I can't even wear it anymore. But I'm glad it's done at least, so that I have it for the fall next year. And I've worn it actually a couple of times already, so it's not completely like lost, you know. So this sweater is so beautiful. I knit it in La Mana Como Grande and La Mana Premia, both in the color Kiwi. So it's like, I don't remember what the gauge is. I am really bad with looking up all the details before I start talking. Let me look it up. So the gauge, I think it's like a worsted weight, so it was like 16 or 18 stitches with the mohair and the merino. Nope, that's the wrong one. Yeah, 17 stitches, which I think is like a worsted weight. And it was really comfortable to knit with I switched to metal needles halfway through, and it just felt like it was so smooth and so much easier to work on, so much more comfortable. So I think I'm a metal needle girly after that. It has a really beautiful shoulder increases on the back side. It's really nice, and then you shape the rest of the shoulder with short rows, and then it's pretty much stockinette the entire way through. You pick up for the sleeves, 1x1 ribbing on the bottom. It has a double folded collar, which I am realizing I don't really like, but for this, because it is a thicker knit, it's a little bit cozier, I feel like it's fine for what it is. But I don't know if I'm gonna do this like folded collar for all of my knits in the future. This was a really great project. I really enjoyed it. I would absolutely make this again. The pattern was very easy to follow. There was only a handful of things that I needed to look up, which was really in the beginning of the project when I first started it, to do the increases on the back to shape the shoulders. And that's probably only because it was like 2 months into my knitting journey, so I was still really new to just knitting in general. So this pattern also, because it's a little bit newer, I think is size inclusive. I really should find the specs. I don't know why I try to talk without like the specs for this. So this one goes from an extra small to a 4XL. This, I mean, it really is a super just nice sweater to have. It's a little bit oversized. I knit a size small for myself. My bust is about 34 inches, which is like 86 centimeters. So I decided to do a small, and it's a perfect fit, especially after blocking. I am very happy with the fit. So yeah, I'm really excited, and I have a ton of patterns from my Forget Things knitwear on my list of things to knit, so I'm absolutely gonna have more of these coming in the future. So that's it for finished objects, and I will just move on to my whips because I only have 2. Okay, so I have 2 whips that I'm working on, and they are the same exact products. So I'm working on the Novice Cardigan by Petite Knit in both the Chunky edition and the Mohair edition. And I bought this yarn for it like several months ago, like maybe back in November or December or something. I bought it with the intention of casting it on as a winter knit, and that is just not what happened. Not at all. So yeah, so it's not my best, but I just was very slow with knitting, and I had a lot of carryover projects from the end of 2022, so I just didn't get to these as quickly as I wanted to, but they are on my needles now, and so far so good. So the first one I will talk about is the Chunky edition, because this one's, yeah, this is the one that I cast on I cast this one on at first. And if you'll notice, if you watched my last podcast video, there's not much progress on it. And that's because I literally had to frog like about half of this last night, because I had done all 4 rounds of increases and then realized that I had too many stitches on my needles, and I didn't think it made sense to just continue with the number of stitches that I had. I had like 1.5 times the number of stitches that I needed, or twice as many stitches as I needed. So it did not make any sense at all for me to continue. Luckily, I did realize what my mistake was. I ended up doing like the third round of increases twice. So I did the third round of increases, like did a purl row, and then I guess I had stopped and thought that I didn't, or maybe didn't take proper notes. So then when I picked it up again after probably a few weeks, I started with the third round of increases again. And that was my mistake. So that's why I ended up with like almost 300 stitches instead of, I probably needed like 2/3 of that or something. But we're back on track. I worked on this a little bit last night and correctly did my third round of increases. So we're all set. I've been counting my stitches and making sure that I'm on track. So now I've learned from my mistake, and I know that I need to make sure I'm counting my stitches at each stage. Otherwise, I'm gonna end up with a totally different size than I cast on. So right now I'm working out of a cake with the wool and mohair combined because I had to wrap it up so I didn't waste any yarn. And yeah, it's back on track now. So we're all good. So this yarn is the Friends wool from Hobby and the Friends Kids Silk from Hobby as well. They're both in the color Sapphire, and so far so good. I really enjoy this yarn for what it is, right? Hobby makes affordable yarn, and I think for wool and mohair, silk mohair, it's pretty good for an affordable option. I love the colors. I think Hobby has a great color selection, which is why I decided to use this yarn instead of maybe investing a little bit more. I just fell in love with this blue color, and same with my mohair one that I will show you in a second. I just kind of fell in love with the color, and I think I committed to it. Plus, when I bought the yarn, it was, you know, I was a month into knitting, so I only had so much experience. I only knew about so many yarn brands, so it is what it is. It's all a learning experience for me. So as I get a little bit further into this, I have so many yarn brands, like the tab saved in my bookmarks on my computer because there's so many that I want to try and test out, but I can only knit so fast. So I don't know if I mentioned, but this pattern is by Petite Knit. I love her patterns. I think they are very well written. They're really easy to follow, just the written instructions, but I also find that the video tutorials on her website are very, very helpful as well, especially when I tried some other patterns, like when I was making the Oslo hat. I found those video tutorials very helpful. So I highly recommend using those as a resource because that's what they are there for. And luckily most of the videos I think do have English subtitles, or she's working on having English subtitles if you are not a native Danish speaker. Because of that, I think it's very, very helpful and easy to follow her patterns. In this one, it's very easy to follow. It's really truly a novice pattern. There's no abbreviations. Everything is written out fully, so very easy to follow. I am not having any issues following the pattern, except obviously that I can't read, or maybe I don't take proper notes, but that's a personal issue. It is knit on 7mm needles, and yep, just super simple stockinette cardigan. Nothing crazy here. You start with the collar, you do circular yoke increases, and then you split for the sleeves, and then you just knit back and forth for the rest of the body, and then pick up for the sleeves. Yeah, and then you do the button band last. So it should be like really, really, really simple knit, and I think the other one is constructed pretty much the same way The only difference is the gauge and, you know, the number of stitches and stuff like that. So pretty simple, and I think it will be nice to have this cardigan. I had wanted to have it finished by the spring, but again, I mean, I was really just a beginner when I, you know, had planned this. This one I think I cast on in February, and you know, I had my sweater number 23. I had been working on a blanket. I had been working on like socks and Christmas gifts and all these things that just kind of pushed back, and I didn't end up knitting on this as quickly as I wanted to. So it's here and it's ready to be knit on now, and I'm gonna try and knit it as quickly as I can. But I don't think I will get to wear this one either this year, but I think that is a theme that you will continue to see in this video as I move into my spring knitting plans a little bit later on. So that is my Novice Cardigan Chunky Edition. And then I also have my Novice Cardigan Mohair Edition. And this one I really love working on. I am so pleasantly surprised by how much I'm enjoying working on this project. It's the same exact cardigan as the other one. It's just knit with 2 strands of mohair. And for this, I am using Hobbies Kid Silk in the color, I think it's just called pink. And it's this like stunning hot pink, like Barbie pink. And I love it. It's knit using, I think, 4mm needles. And funnily enough, these needles, I had like a cheapy set of needles from Amazon that I had bought when I first started knitting, and those also broke. My 4mm set broke while I was knitting this one as well, so I had to purchase new ones. So I really am enjoying the ChowGoo red lace needles. So I've just been buying those kind of whenever my needles seem like they are on their way out. So I've acquired quite a few pairs in the last few weeks, and I probably should invest in like an interchangeable set, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to wait, I think, until all of my like cheap needles conk out before I do that. So I just have a couple of non-interchangeable sets for now, but I digress. So again, this one, I think I'm at pretty similar spot. I'm maybe like halfway done with the second round of increases, so I have to knit a little bit more and then I can do the third round of increases. And I've learned from my mistakes. I'll make sure that I'm paying attention to how many rounds I do, and just try my very best to just keep track of what I'm doing. Again, this one I cast it on maybe middle of March, the end of March. I was trying to have this finished by like mid-April because I have a baptism that I'm going to, and I have a dress that I purchased that I think just probably could use a cardigan over it, especially if we're going to be sitting in a church. So I wanted to have this with it because this is going pretty fast, but I'm not going to finish it in time because my needle broke and I had to wait for it to come in. But the first pair I ordered, like the seller never shipped it, and then I waited like 2 weeks, and then I had to cancel the order and repurchase it, and it was a whole thing. So it's not going to be finished in time, so I have to go find another cardigan to wear for this event that I have to go to, but whatever, it's fine. Everything is fine. So yeah, it's just knit 2 strands of mohair, which I guess is like a light fingering weight, or I think the gauge is more like a DK weight. I don't remember. But it's a little bit airy, so it'll be definitely a nice spring piece to have. Like if you are in an air-conditioned office or something, it's going to be a nice piece to have because you'll get a little bit of breeze through it, but the mohair is going to be really nice and toasty for when you need it. So it's going to be, I hope, very good for transitional weather. That was kind of my plan, but we'll see. I don't know if I'll finish it this season because I'm slow at knitting. I'm trying to take my time and just enjoy the process, but I also want to be able to wear these things while I can. So, and that I think is just a lesson that I'm learning through my first year of knitting, is I'm not going to knit as fast as I probably think I can. So I want to make sure I'm updating my plans to accommodate for that. So with that said, I think I'm going to move on to acquisitions and my spring knitting plans. They kind of go hand in hand, so I'm going to talk about them at the same time. Moving on, my spring knitting plans are a little bit different than what I think we anticipated. After my first full season knitting, I kind of realized that number one, I'm pretty slow at knitting. It takes a really long time for me to knit things. So I think my plans should reflect that. The other thing that I realized is that because I am not knitting very fast, which is totally fine, I'm happy to knit at my own pace, but because I don't knit very fast, I also am not going to get to wear the things I'm working on in the season that I'm working on them. So if I'm knitting sweaters because I want to wear them in the winter, I can't start knitting them in the winter. Otherwise, they won't be completed in time and I won't be able to finish them. And I won't be able to wear them, I mean. So because of that, I decided I'm going to kind of shift my thought process for my plan and kind of plan ahead a little bit more than I did for my winter knitting plans. So basically what that means is I'm coming up on spring and summer right now, but I think a lot of my knitting plans are going to focus a little bit more on things I am going to want to wear in the fall, because I don't want to feel pressured to knit things quickly just so that I can wear them. I want to still enjoy this process and still make sure I'm learning my skills properly, so I just don't want to rush it. So with that said, these are my spring knitting plans. So first things first, I have a couple of swatches that I did, which is nice. I don't always have swatches to show you because I feel like I don't film them. I either cast them on or I don't have them when I'm filming them. So yeah. So this is my swatch for my sweater number 18 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And I'll do a close-up so that you can really see it. But so I am very excited about this. I have had this sweater on my list almost since I started knitting. It's, I think, a really beautiful texture, and I think that's another thing you'll notice is I'm definitely leaning into textured knits. I don't, after doing 3 or 4 straight stockinette pieces over the last couple of months, I am good. I don't need to knit stockinette anytime soon, so I just need, I think, a little bit more of a challenge, a little bit more of like a not so mindless knit, something that's a little bit more interesting that I can really just enjoy the process of. And this is going to be one of those. So I am going to be knitting a size small in this pattern. I don't think this one is size inclusive yet, but I do think that she mentioned she's going to be updating all of her patterns to be size inclusive. And if I'm not mistaken, she did a testing call for this one to expand the sizing. So that will potentially be coming soon if it has not happened already. So I have decided to knit this in one of the recommended yarns for the pattern, which is Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino and the Soft Silk Mohair. Let me just grab it. So I have my Mohair, and then I have the Mohair and then the Heavy Merino, which in the ball is pretty soft, but it's definitely a little bit more on the scratchy side. The Mohair also is a little bit not that soft. I had another color in the Mohair, but this one seems like it's just not as soft. But when I washed and blocked my swatch, I feel like it's fine, so I'm gonna move forward with casting this on. I'm just not sure when yet. But I did have an issue with my ball of yarn because I was a little antsy, and when I got the package in, I also might have been drinking. So that might play a role in this, but I snipped through some of the yarn. Only one ball, luckily, but I have a lot of short pieces of this yarn, so I'm gonna see how it goes. Right now, I did, to do my swatch, I did a center pull, which seems to be fine, so it's just the outside of the yarn that got cut, so we'll see. But I was so annoyed at myself because if I had just taken 2 seconds to be careful, I would have been fine, but whatever, it's a learning lesson for me. So this is also the color Marzipan, and it's a little bit grayer than I thought it would be, I guess, but it's fine. Or not grayer, it's cooler toned than I thought it would be. They describe it as kind of like a mix between gray and beige, I'm pretty sure, which is fine. That's definitely what it is, but I think it just leans a little bit cooler. So it's not the most flattering on my skin tone, but I do think it will be fine because I want to also make sure that you can see the texture and, all of that fun stuff. So yeah, this one I'm really excited about knitting. It's been on my list for a long time, so I'm very excited. I'm going to use the 5mm needles that I use for my sweater number 23, and I think that will be it. It's a piece that I definitely want to make sure I have ready to wear in the fall and winter next year, so that's why I decided to cast this one on right now. The next piece that I have on my knitting plans wish list is the Friday tee from Petite Knit. She's cute. I'm so excited about this. This is another one I think that was on my list from the very beginning. I think I just really love a textured knit, and so this one immediately caught my eye, and I'm excited to try it out. This one, it's not, I guess, a complex pattern, but I think the combination of doing the pattern and the raglan increases, and I think they're short rows, and just kind of doing a completely really new construction. I've only knit a raglan for the baby cardigan I did a couple of months ago, and it was a cardigan, so slightly different than knitting like a t-shirt. This is also, I think, the lightest weight yarn I've used. This is a fingering weight yarn. We'll see, but so far so good. I like the fabric that this created. I really like the color. It's also knit on 3mm needles or 3.5mm needles, so she's tiny, and it's gonna take a very long time probably, but at the same time, I just think I'm gonna really enjoy the finished product. So I would rather just start it and have it on my needles, but I'm hoping I'd be able to wear it at least by the end of the summer, if not sooner. knitting it in cotton yarn, so it would be a great transitional piece for right now if I had it done, or I think going into the fall it'll be a great piece. So I'm very excited about this. So I am knitting this in Hobby's baby cotton, which is 100% Egyptian cotton. I did mention that it's knit on 3mm needles. It's super soft in the ball, and I really am so glad. So it comes in 50-gram balls, which is about 170 meters. I got it from Hobby. I met gauge. I've been very good with meeting gauge on almost all of my projects that I've knit so far, so it's been very nice. I bought 6 balls of this. I'm sure it will be plenty for a t-shirt, but we shall see. I also am not doing a striped version because I just couldn't figure out what stripy colors I wanted, so I decided not to do stripes at all. I'm just going to do a solid color t-shirt, and honestly I think it will be perfectly fine. I'm really excited to have these, 2 new pieces in my wardrobe after this. So I have a couple more things on my knitting plans, but I don't have swatches for them yet, so I will just be showing you the yarn. So that's the acquisition portion. Okay, so moving on, this is more of the acquisition portion of this podcast because I don't have swatches to show you. I haven't cast them on, but I have the yarn, so that's what I'm going to show you. So the next thing that I'm planning to swatch for is the Scallop Jacket by Strikke, and I have the yarn here. So this was also part of my Hobby order. I decided on this yarn for a few reasons. The first is that I have been wanting to use alpaca yarn for a very long time. Just generally really like the feel of alpaca. I have quite a few like store-bought sweaters that are knit with alpaca, and I love them. I wear them often in the winter, so I thought it would be nice to actually knit with alpaca and see how I like the feel of it. I also actually originally had wanted to knit this sweater in the same marzipan color as this from Ding for Olive, but I decided not to because I thought it would look a little bit nicer for my sweater number 18. So I decided to go with this like dark gray color instead. I don't have a dark gray cardigan in my wardrobe yet, and so that was kind of why I decided to go with this. So this is the alpaca silk from Hobby, and then I have the soft alpaca lace from Hobby. The pattern calls for a fingering weight held with a lace weight, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be kind of like a DK weight pattern. It's knit in 2x2 rib, and yeah, I think it will be a really nice pattern. I don't know, I just love the way it looks. Has not a lot of positive ease. I think it's only got like 1 or 2 inches maybe of positive ease, if that. So it's really more of like a fitted type of cardigan, and I just love that, I think, especially right now because more like baggy jeans, like baggier, looser bottoms are very trendy, and I think having those more fitted pieces on top is becoming very trendy. But in addition to that, like, I just love a good cardigan. I don't have a lot of textured cardigans. Everything is Even my store-bought pieces are pretty plain, so I thought having a textured cardigan would be a really nice piece to add to my wardrobe. Yeah, so the yarn I'm very excited about. It's so soft. That's why I love alpaca, right? Because it's so soft, and I feel like this is going to be such a nice combination. My only concerns is that these two yarns like don't come in the same exact color. So like the silk, alpaca silk, is a little bit darker, but looking at them, they are pretty variegated, like on their own. There's definitely like streaks of white and light gray mixed with the darker gray, so I think it will be fine and it will make a very nice fabric together. But I haven't swatched yet, so I don't know. This one is going to be knit on 4mm needles, so I bought a second pair of the Chaogu 4mm needles because I wanted to have it ready to at least swatch for this. I don't know if I'll cast it on, but I wanted to at least swatch for it. So I bought a second pair of needles, and I figured it's not a bad thing to have two sets of 4mm needles because I have 3 or 4 projects on in my queue right now that need 4mm needles, so I'm definitely gonna get my use out of those. That's these. I am really excited to cast these on. So I'll just move on to my next acquisition / spring knitting plan. All right, last but not least for my spring knitting plans is going to be the Marseille Sweater by Petite Knit. And this is a incredibly popular sweater. I think this sweater pattern came out a few years ago, definitely before I started knitting. So you don't see it very often, but it's a piece that I find people go back to. They like wear it very often, and personally I love a striped sweater. There was actually a brand called La Line that makes these really beautiful kind of marine style striped sweaters that actually inspired my color palette for my Marseille sweater. So yeah, so we're just gonna see how it goes, but I'm very excited about it. So I decided to knit this sweater in cotton instead of wool because I thought with the nice stripes and just the color palette that I was using, I thought it would be a really nice sweater to have in the spring and to wear into the fall, but also it's going to be a great piece to have in the winter. So I decided to go with cotton for that reason. And I had a lot of trouble finding yarn with the colors that I needed. It was always that they had, so I'm doing 5 different colors, 4 stripe colors, and then 1 color for my main color. And they would have like 4 out of 5 of the colors, and I checked like so many yarn brands, especially in cotton. It was very hard to find, and I didn't quite want to like cheap out and order from Hobby. I wanted to try, well, cheap out, but also like just keep buying the same yarns over and over and over again. I wanted to make sure that I was trying different brands and different like yarn stores and that kind of thing. So it took me a little while to find the yarn for this, but I'm finally have it, and I'm very, very satisfied with what I have. So I decided to go with Paint Box yarns. I bought it from lovecrafts.com, and this is their cotton DK yarn, and I'm very excited. So I got 10 balls of this white yarn. I think it's called, this is called Light Champagne, and it's color 403. It's a 50-gram ball with 125 meters, and it's 100% cotton. So this is going to be my base main color. I wanted a white striped sweater, so that's what we're doing. And then for my stripes, I got a couple. colors because I thought it would be fun. So I have 4 colors that I'm going to use for my stripes in the same Paint Box Cotton DK yarn. So the body stripes are going to be this navy blue color. It's called Midnight Blue. So I think I have like 2 or 3 of these. I probably have too many, but I just wanted to be safe. And then I got one of each of these. This is called Red Wine. This one is Racing Green, and then this is Glorious Gold. These are going to be the stripe colors for my sleeves. And I think it's going to be so cute. So Laline that I mentioned before, they have a sweater that has basically the same color pattern. It's very similar shape to the Marseille Sweater, so I was like, that's going to be perfect for what I wanted. And I had found it in the fall, and I decided not to purchase it because it was like $300, and I was like, I don't know if I can commit to this. So I ended up not buying it, and it's currently sold out. It's not even listed on their website anymore. But when I found the Marseille Sweater pattern, I said, okay, I think that is going to be perfect to at least recreate my own version of it. And that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, so I am so excited. I think this is going to look so good. I cannot wait to cast this one on and to get to wear it, but I have to swatch first. So we'll see. Hopefully I make gauge. I'm a little bit nervous about this yarn because it seems like it's so thin, but we'll see. Yeah, so it's a knit on 4mm needles with a DK weight yarn. I feel like this yarn looks so thin for a DK weight, so I don't know if I'll make gauge, but if I don't, I will figure it out. Yeah, and I think that is actually it. So basically, moral of the story for my spring knitting plans is I'm trying to be a little bit more forward thinking and make sure I am knitting pieces that I can wear when I want to wear them. So, and I think that is going to be kind of my plan moving forward. So spring and summer, I'm going to be making sure I am knitting pieces that I want to wear in the fall and winter. And then in the fall and winter, I'm going to knit the pieces I want to wear for the spring and summer, just so that I don't have to feel rushed. I don't have to feel like I'm missing out, basically. So that is my plan, basically, right now. And that is actually everything on my spring knitting plans. I wanted to be really realistic about what I can actually complete in this season. I think a lot of these are probably going to go into the summer, which is perfectly fine because I don't plan to wear any of this stuff until the fall at least. And especially because my winter knitting plans got pushed back. I actually did not complete anything that was on my winter knitting plans, so a lot of them got pushed into my spring knitting plans, which again is totally fine. I would rather take my time than feel stressed and end up not even enjoying knitting anymore anyway. So I think that's it. I have no idea if I was rambling, but I hope that you enjoyed this. I guess that's going to be it until next time. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below if there's anything that's on your spring knitting plans. If you plan to knit any of the pieces that I'm knitting, we could kind of do a little knit along together, and we can just enjoy our spring knitting. So thank you again so much for watching and for coming back every couple of weeks and sticking by me while I'm an inconsistent poster, but I'm trying to get better. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.